Hi, I'm Paul Begley. This is one of the most important videos you're ever going to watch. The prophecy of Egypt, the burden of Egypt. Now I'm going to be reading 4 verses from the book of Isaiah, but before I do, let me please just read quickly. I'm going to change this. I have some sunlight coming in here. I want to ensure the lighting is right. I want to read to you quickly from Reuters. In Paris, Al Jazeera, though, is reporting that the offices in Cairo, Egypt were stormed and torched, and its website was hacked Friday, and the Arab broadcaster said, as a top UN rights official called attacks on the journalist a blatant attempt to stifle the news about pro-democracy protests. You do realize that an Egyptian reporter was shot. He was wounded severely. Well, he died today. He's the first journalist to die in the 11-day rioting and uprising there in Egypt. The Qatar-based television network Al Jazeera said its Cairo offices were burned along with the equipment inside and called the attack an attempt by Egypt's regime or its supporters to hinder its coverage of the uprising in Egypt. Many correspondents covering the bloody street fights in Egypt have suffered violent attacks. A Swedish journalist is recovering from being stabbed in the back. A Czech Republic television is withdrawing its TV crew from Egypt because of what it calls unprecedented attacks on reporters. CNN's reporter Anderson Cooper was punched in the face and hit in the head 10 times. We've never seen anything like this. Not a single media outlet in Egypt today has escaped the violence, said Jean-François Julliard, the head of the Paris-based media advocacy group for Reporters Without Borders. It's totally impossible to work as a journalist in Egypt today. CBS News said Friday its foreign correspondent Laura Logan and cameraman Don Lee and Max McKellen were released after being held for a day by Egyptian military and are headed back to the United States. Logan has been stationed in northern town of Alexandria, and it's getting crazy there too. Al Jazeera also said that a banner of advertisement on its Arabic language site has taken down for more than 2 hours early Friday and placed with a slogan reading, "Together for the Collapse of Egypt," which linked to a page criticizing the network. Our website has been under relentless attacks since the onset of the uprisings in Egypt, said Al Jazeera. We can't control, nor can we attempt. They are attempting to try to discredit us. Okay. When Al Jazeera, who is absolutely in the back pocket of the Muslim world, when they can't even report the news correctly in Egypt, you got a problem. You got a serious, serious problem. Now we're going to read from the Bible. This is the prophecy of Egypt, the burden of Egypt. What's happening right now in Egypt was prophesied in the Bible by the prophet Isaiah. Let's read, if you will. Give me 1 second here. Isaiah chapter 19, verse 1 through 4. The burden of Egypt. Behold, the Lord rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight every one against his brother, and every one against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof. And they shall seek to the idols, to the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits, to the wizards. And the Egyptians shall give over into the land of a cruel lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord of hosts. This thing is serious. If you notice in this Isaiah chapter 19, when he says the burden of Egypt, he calls it the burden of Egypt. It's the prophecy of Egypt. But it's so bad that the prophet Isaiah can't even speak it out as a prophet, to even utter the words prophetically, but instead he groans in his spirit and says, the burden of Egypt. The burden of Egypt. Behold, the Lord rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence. Do you know that King Tut's museum is there? These are idols. These are relics, famous relics from the days long gone by. Precious. They've been trying to burn the museum down. They've been trying to take away the pride of Egypt. The Bible says that I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof. The government of Mubarak is over. It has failed. It is crashing. Brother against brother. They've been fighting in the streets. They've been rioting in the streets. They've been riding camels with whips and knives. They've been shooting, burning things. The military's trying to hold. Look, and here's the key point. The Egyptians, and this is really right at President Mubarak, who has the spirit of Pharaoh. I want to show you right there. It says, and the Egyptians will give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord of hosts. They will also, look in verse 3, they will seek out charmers that have familiar spirits and wizards. They will actually go to witchcraft, trying to find the answers. And here is the answer. President Mubarak's presidency will crash and burn. Egypt will be destroyed with a very bad economic downfall. It will become a burden to be an Egyptian. It will become a burden to be called an Egyptian. This is the prophecy of Egypt, the burden of Egypt, by the prophet Isaiah. I'm Paul Begley. Go in prayer and study this. And if you're not saved, you need to call on Jesus Christ, because once again, these are signs of the second coming of the Lord.